Hey Corey, thanks for this video and uh, thanks for your bravery in, I guess, meeting in Mendham in his own turf here in the internets. I think YouTube is very much it's owned by spur of the moment emotional reactions to the ideas of others. You know, that's what the typical response is. In other words, the more drama it produces, the better its uh, you know share of the views is going to be. The more popular it's going to end up. But to really get to the logical and moral roots of what we're really trying to figure out, not just as YouTubers, but as people, as human beings in the actual world of embodied ethical relationships with other people. In that world, um, there are certain truths which seem to transcend rhetoric. Rhetoric just being the ability one has to convey a point of view through speech to a crowd. And I emphasize crowd because, when it's a small group of people in an intimate setting, a small group of friends in an intimate setting, rhetoric doesn't really come into play because there's at least a greater chance that honesty will be shared uh, amongst such company. Whereas when it's an orator speaking to an audience, which in all likelihood, if this is a politician, say, this orator hasn't met every individual, so they're speaking to a crowd or to a mass. And many times YouTube can't help but take on that quality, which gives every video a great deal of ambiguity because in some cases, many of the people who may watch the video don't really understand where the discourse displayed in that particular video is coming from or where it's aimed, just because there are um, many different habitats within human symbolic exchange, and they don't all play by the same rules. There are rules in every linguistic community, but they're made up on the go and they're always changing. Like the rules of a game, certainly there are rules, but as the game evolves, as players discover new ways of saying things, as any particular community of language speakers gains or becomes attentive to differences which they hadn't recognized prior, the rules of the game, of the language game that they're playing, evolve. So I think recognizing this about language, that it's constantly, or it provides us as speaking animals with the ability to recognize an ever increasing number of differences. And it's not just a number, it's a quality. We become aware of qualities in a way, new qualities in a way that it seems the rest of the animal kingdom and of nature is unable to. So you could almost say that the difference between humans and the rest of nature is precisely our ability to ask this question, which requires that we are able to recognize the difference in anything. So our ability to recognize difference in a seemingly open-ended way is exactly what establishes the difference between us and any other creature. But then I think the part of me wants to maintain a continuity between humanity and nature. And I think, I look to someone like Alfred North Whitehead uh, when I begin to cement this thought of nature itself as um, always in possession of some intensity of conceptuality, such that it's not merely this new thing which emerges only in the human animal, but something which has been at work, perhaps more hidden in the evolution of stars and solar systems, and beginning to become more apparent through the emergence of life, multicellular life, reptiles, mammals, primates, and then language using humans. It seems that conceptuality has there almost entirely unveiled itself. But it seems to me to have been at work since the beginning, though in a masked form. So, as the German Romantics would put it, nature is hidden spirit, and the human being is spirit struggling to reveal itself. Um, and so, the idea that in Mendham or Gary rejects so fervently that the universe is going somewhere, or even that humanity is going somewhere. He rejects both of these ideas, though I think he certainly, well, I won't speculate on Gary's thoughts, but he does seem to reject these ideas that there is a purpose other than suffering or avoiding suffering, but that's not much of a purpose at all. And, I, on the other hand, like you say, Corey, I can't avoid theology. I can't avoid it. Certainly there have been a lot of theologically motivated doctrines and systems which have arisen in the past that I would want to distance myself from. I think the fact that I'm able to distance myself from them, to speak a difference between my theology and that, or those theologies, it's still a theological endeavor that I'm engaging in. I have to respond to what I perceive to be the mistaken theological assumptions of our culture. One of the admittedly, perhaps it's theological or perhaps it's just cosmological. I think we can look at the observable universe, the experienceable universe, especially, which includes not only outward observation, but Whitehead would call it causal efficacy. In other words, our bodily experience rather than simply our sensory experience of the external world, our bodily experience of the universe. I think there's evidence for a sort of purpose or teleology or end-driven process. Simply in our experience. It's not just metaphysical speculation which can't be observed or empirically established. The universe is a developmental process. So I guess, I certainly think that where you're trying to lead us, Corey, is exactly the direction we should be headed. I maybe want to slightly qualify what you're saying by pointing more toward the continuity between humanity and nature rather than the difference. Certainly, the universe become aware of itself in a way that the rest of the non-human universe is not. But the rest of the universe is involved in our recognition of it as itself. So the human is integral with the cosmos, in other words, and we have to recognize the cosmological or theological implications of that, of, say, the anthropic principle in cosmology, which I wish I could explain a little bit more deeply, but there's a Wikipedia page about it that tells it pretty well, so thanks for listening.